Spring fishing can be an absolute grind. Cold fronts, windy days, and sometimes the bass just don't want to bite. One of the baits I've found to consistently get the job done for me is the chatterbait. This thing rips through grass, puts off a ton of vibration, and triggers a reaction strike when you need it the most. One of my favorite things about fishing the chatterbait is when you fish it right, you can catch fish just like this one. That's what we're looking for, guys. But if you don't use the right fishing techniques and gear for the chatterbait, you could get a result that's, say, less desirable. Today I'm going to break down why the chatterbait is my go-to bait in tough conditions, the best ways to fish it, and how you can start catching more bass right now. Let's get after it. One of my favorite baits to throw when I'm spring bass fishing is a chatterbait. In the spring we're dealing with some lethargic bass, so what I need is a lot of vibration, and I need to trigger that reaction bite. So one of the best ways to do that is do it with a chatterbait. Aside from the lipless crankbait, a chatterbait achieves a lot of the same features. It's got a wobbly head on it, it's got a blade. The bladed jig allows it to rip through the grass really easily. One of the things I like to do on a day like today, we're out on Lake Guntersville, and it's a really windy day, post-frontal conditions. It's a really tough day. But what that chatterbait allows me to do is I can throw it on a stiffer rod. It's a lot heavier than a small crankbait or lipless crankbait. So I'm able to cast that thing into the wind a lot better and achieve some better results because it has a lot of the same features when it gets in the water as the lipless crankbait. So what I love to do in windy conditions or murky water is throw a chatterbait. Now, you have to do it in the right situation. With a chatterbait, I'm looking for two different types of habitat. One is going to be shallow grass, same hydrilla or maybe even some eelgrass that we find just along the banks of the river, and that allows you to rip that bait through the grass. But another thing I'm looking for this time of year is shallow cover, especially early in pre-spawn. The wood cover and the rock cover hold heat much better. Some of these fish will actually stage up on that kind of stuff, and that could get you a good place to catch a fish on a chatterbait. Now, some of the best colors with a chatterbait is, yes, we can throw an orange chatterbait, but today we're throwing this green pumpkin chatterbait. That's what I'm hoping is going to get it done today, because we do have some muddy water conditions and it's really windy, and we're going to need something heavier to sling out there and still get those spring fish. Let's go catch some fish on a chatterbait and see what we can come up with in these springtime conditions. So fishing a chatterbait is all about finding the right habitat. I found on the back side of this island a pretty good chunk of grass here, and I'm throwing it in there and I'm just ripping it out, very similar to the way we do a lipless crankbait. I'm waiting until I feel it hit the grass and then I'm ripping it out, really just slow rolling it. I think this is an area we can get bit in for sure, especially doing this technique. One of the things I like about a chatterbait in this kind of weather, this windy weather, is you can throw it on a big stiff rod, and the chatterbait itself is heavier than a lipless crankbait or a small crankbait, especially with the trailer on it. So that's what I like the most about throwing this bait in the spring, because a lot of these days we have bad weather or windy weather or what have you, that you can't really throw some of these other baits, and that's when the chatterbait really shines, especially in some shallow grass where you can rip it through. It's just a good technique for the spring. Oh, this is a big one. Oh, yes. Let's go. There's a chatterbait fish. Look how he ate it, baby. Let's go. There you go, guys. There's about a 4-pounder on a chatterbait. All right, so we've already discussed how the chatterbait is an absolutely electric bait to fish during the spring, but let's dive in a little bit deeper to the intricacies of how to fish this thing. A lot of people make mistakes of just throwing it out there, chunking and winding it, but the key here is the retrieve. A lot of these fish, when the water temp gets up, right, today we're out, it's a much warmer day today, and the water temp 65 degrees. And so these fish are going to be more active. And the key is varying the retrieve. What I like to say is you've got to make that bait hunt. Sometimes when the bite gets tough, one of the things that I like to do is pop that rod, okay? When we're fishing the chatterbait in the grass, what we like to feel is it get hung up a little bit in that grass, and we pop it up and then kill it. And then we're popping it up and killing it. What that does is it gives erratic action, and it triggers a reaction strike from these bass, especially when the bite tends to be a little tougher. Speaking of grass, what we're trying to do is get that bait bogged down in the grass. So when I throw it out there, I'm gonna let it sink down to what the grass is. Typically, I'm fishing this bait between 2 and 5 foot depth. Today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to find a grass line, a little bit of a drop off, and we're gonna fish this bait along that grass line, along the drop off. And so when you feel that bait kind of get bogged down in the grass, what I like to do is pop it up. What that does is it shoots the bait out of the grass, and it really does trigger that reaction strike that we're looking for. Today we've got a straight tail swim bait, and what I'm doing is I'm throwing a dead green pumpkin color because I really like that for the stained muddy water that we have today, because we've had a lot of wind and it's still coming off of that. We're just now kind of getting into the spring patterns here with the water temp between 60 and 65. So let's go throw this chatterbait and see what we can come up with. There we go. There's a fish. All right, guys, so it's the night before a long day of fishing tomorrow that you guys have already seen clips from, I'm sure, on this video. But tonight, I'm gonna tie on this chatterbait that hopefully we've already caught him on today. And so, guys, I wanted to talk about what I'm gonna tie it on and how I'm gonna tie it up to make sure that to ensure that we fish this thing successfully tomorrow. So let's dive into it. I've got all my rods here laid out in front of me that are going on the fishing trip with me tomorrow, but today's video, of course, is focused around the chatterbait. So I'm gonna tie it on this rod here. This rod is a 7.4 heavy with a super fast action on the rod tip. With that fast action, it's gonna allow that rod to be able to have enough parabolic bend in it to really set the hook into that fish to make sure that we hopefully don't lose any fishing. And then I've got it paired with a Shimano Corrado 200 HG 7 gear reel. Okay, this is a 7.4 gear ratio reel, Shimano Corrado, like I said, and this will allow me to really winch those fish out because we're gonna be doing a little bit different types of techniques when we retrieve this bait, guys. So what we're gonna do is a lot of times we're gonna throw it out there, we're gonna reel it in like we talked about in the video. We're gonna get it bogged down and we're gonna pitch it up. And when we rip it out of the grass, we wanna be able to collect the slack really quickly because a lot of times that's when the fish are gonna bite. So I like throwing it on a faster gear ratio so I can reel in the slack when I'm either ripping it through the grass or when that fish bites it and puts slack into the line. And finally, the line, I'm gonna be putting it on 15-pound fluorocarbon. This is going to allow me to rip the fish out of the grass because inevitably these fish are going to bite that bait and they're going to go straight down in the grass. And I don't want braid on there because I don't want them to see it. And I don't want monofilament because I don't want the line to float. So the best thing here is going to be to run 15 to 17-pound fluorocarbon that allows you to have it to where that line's going to sink and not hold the bait in the top of the water column, but it also gives you enough power and force to be able to winch that fish out of the grass when they dive in it, as they inevitably do. Now, guys, I did not used to pay much attention to what I threw these chatterbaits on, and I threw it on anything that would work. And to be honest with you, I've had mixed results, just like this here.
Oh God, this is a big one. Oh, this is a big one. Oh.
In that clip, guys, what I did was I threw it on a 7-foot medium heavy, which is perfectly fine, I guess, in that scenario, except do not try to boat flip it like I did. See, where I went wrong was I tried to boat flip it and I had my hand in the middle of the rod and I'm lifting up on that fish, putting a lot of strain on the tip of that rod, which is where it broke. It broke my line, broke my rod, and I lost the fish. So guys, if you don't want to end up like that, I recommend going 7.1 to 7.4, medium heavy to heavy rod. Don't try to boat flip him, even though it's tempting. And then pair it with a 7-to-8 gear ratio, depending on what you have. Now guys, will anything else work? Yes, a lot of other stuff will work. But this is what I've found to be the best and most successful combo when I'm tying on that chatterbait. Let's get this thing tied on and then we'll meet you back at the video. Try it out next time you hit the water and drop in the comments and tell me how you do. And guys, if you haven't already, go ahead and check out my blog on my website, huntbycoop.com. You will see a blog on this topic, on the chatterbait itself. You'll see how to fish it, when to fish it, where to fish it, and what to fish it with, guys. If that's what you're into and you want some more written content in regards to fishing a chatterbait, go ahead and check that out. It's live right now on my website, www.huntbycoop.com. That's HUNTXCOOP.com. It'll be linked in the description below. And guys, thank you for watching the video. If this video helped you out, make sure you like this video. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And send this video to somebody who needs to see it. Guys, everybody needs to be throwing a chatterbait right now. And if you or your buddies aren't doing it, you need to send them this video and go ahead and tell them that this is what you need to do. And I'll see you on the next one.